Hey, good morning. It is Monday and it is time for my Monday Mojo. So I'm Angie Rose with Angie Rose Health Coaching, and every Monday I hop on here to talk with you just a little bit about something to motivate you for your week as we get started. Mondays always seem to be the hardest. It's like we just rested, but it's still back to the grind. And so even for me this morning, getting up thinking, it's going to be a beautiful day, but it's definitely Monday. And Monday after a holiday weekend, which actually is kind of fitting to what we're going to talk about today. With the topic is called Why Do We Crave Unhealthy Food? So I don't know how many of you guys this weekend had family time, family get-togethers, meals, desserts, extras, eat-outs, extra time off work, all that fun stuff that actually includes lots of food and drinks and all those fun things. But most of the time after a holiday like this, after candy and junk and all that, we kind of feel a little run down and it's a little harder start, right? It takes a little more caffeine or a little more water or a little more mental motivation to get going, right? So my guess is some of you are feeling that as well as I am, right? So, this month we want to talk about, picking better foods. And well, we always talk about that, but we really do want to talk about choices and the benefit. All things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial, which means honestly, you can eat anything you want and do anything you want, but it doesn't always mean that it's going to give you the best result. It's not going to make you feel the best. It's not going to get you to your goals fast enough, or even in general, just get to your goals. So just remember, as we're talking today and as we're talking over the next few weeks about cutting out some things or cutting back on some things, remember, it's not that you can't have it because you can do anything you want, but the reality of it is our goal is to figure out what things are not really beneficial to have all the time to keep me moving forward toward my goals and to help me feel the best, right? So, most of us have cravings, right? Most of us have cravings. I do. I've been a health coach and eaten clean and healthy and overall eaten really well for 20 years. I still have cravings every now and then. Now, I will say those cravings are not necessarily binges, and they're not necessarily out of control the way they were years ago when I first started, but I still have cravings. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know that goes away, and that's because there are certain receptors in our brain and in our body that just crave good, yummy food. I mean, food is meant to taste good. God created us that way. Taste buds, so on and so forth, right? Now, I know it doesn't really seem fair because I think everybody wishes they did not have to have cravings because they feel like that's probably the thing that's absolutely stopping them. But I always tell people that are working with me one-on-one, cravings are absolutely like an indicator in our world of what's actually going on. So it's kind of like the check engine light in our vehicle, right? Like that check engine light comes on, or those sensor lights or whatever they may be come on, tire gauge or, tires are low. Those things come on to give us some wisdom in order to really look at what's happening in life or in our vehicle. So I can have a low tire sensor pop up or a message pop up. If I ignore it long enough, pretty soon I'm going to be stranded on the side of the road. Okay? That's probably a good signal. The truth of the matter is, most of the time, cravings are a signal to something. But we're going to talk specifically today about how our cravings are attached to the foods that we choose, okay? So the reality is that the foods we choose, by design, most of them are manufactured to make us want more. Okay, so there is a scientific reason behind your craving. If you're eating foods that are extremely high fat, high salt, high sugar, and they're very empty calories, they're made to trip the trigger in your brain that says, please feed me more and lots more. It's kind of one of those things that we think about that like some is good, more is better. And what we end up doing is eating so much of it to get that same feeling over and over and over again, because our brains are actually hardwired for tasty food, right? And so unfortunately, most of the stuff that is on the market today and that we're choosing is chemical laden. And that really is an issue. Right. So the other thing about that is too, is that, most of us are not in scarcity anymore. And what I mean by that, you guys, most of us are not starving. Okay. So if we look back 100 years or 200 years, and you had even you had to go hunt your own food, and you had to plant your own gardens. So when you ate, it was amazing, and it was pleasurable because you were able to have those things. Now food is everywhere. It costs us hardly nothing, which is ridiculous to me. I want to say this. It's ridiculous that craptastic food is so cheap or cheaper than having a healthy meal. But that's the thing we will go back to over and over and over again, because it's cheap, it's plentiful, and it's definitely not scarce. Okay, so that's the first thing. That's the first reason for us to be thinking, is that that most of the stuff we're choosing is crappy food that's full of that stuff. And then the reason number two, I'm going to give you two reasons that you crave processed food is, as I said, manufacturers are smart. Marketers are smart. They create foods that literally light up the receptors in the brain, but the taste buds on the tongue. They are meant for flavor, major flavor. So it's not hard to believe that these things are hard to resist, because man, who doesn't love? I'll give you an example. So we had Easter last weekend, not yesterday. We had last weekend with my in-laws. And we found these, because I don't like to bake. I'm just being honest, I don't. So we went to Walmart and we found these little carrot cake cookies. They were two cookies with frosting in the middle that were like a little sandwich. And it had the wonderful frosting that we love that goes on carrot cake. Now, I technically shouldn't be eating carrot cake because it's gluten and the frosting and all that has dairy in it. But a lot of times on a holiday, I'll splurge a little bit and I will have some. But, I try not to have very much because then I pay for it. My body tells me and my cravings kick in. So I decided on Sunday or whatever day we were there that I was going to have one of those cookies as my dessert. Just one, because again, most of that stuff they had there I couldn't eat anyway. And I don't bring something I can eat, because if I do, then I like it. I like sugar. So I ate my one cookie and I savored that cookie. And oh, sweet Jesus, was that cookie amazing. I ain't gonna lie. It was amazing. So what did Angie decide to do? Angie decided to have a second cookie. Okay. Ate the second cookie. And yes, it was just as amazing as the first. Except for by the end of the cookie, it was so sweet, my taste buds were like, bam, I cannot even eat another one. But I finished it, right? Because we don't waste. But once I was done with that, it's like I just felt like my mouth was coated with sugar. My tongue was coated with, trans fat. Which don't get me wrong, it tasted awesome. But then at the end, it just did not taste as good. Okay. And part of this is because I don't normally eat that kind of stuff. So it was like a flavor explosion in my mouth when I first had it. And it was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I'm going back again. What does that sound like to you? Does that sound like a drug addiction or a food addiction? I'm not an addict, but I'm saying we are doing the same thing because it does the same thing in our receptors and our neurotransmitters as drugs do or alcohol does. And so I just need you guys to think about our food is made to make us want more. That is all there is to it. It's made to make us want more. So it's not surprising that it's hard to resist. Okay, so I would love to tell you, Angie, stop there. Okay, but I'm going to tell on myself today. So then we went home, brought the extra cookies. There were a few left, right? Brought the extra. There were a few left. This was maybe 2, 3, 4 hours later. Angie's like, man, I really want another one of those cookies. I've already had 2. Why not? Might as well. Okay, this is the health coach being honest with you. Now, so I had my 3rd cookie. And then I had another cookie, which was a half of one. So technically, here's the thing. I had 3.5 cookies. Okay. I probably would have ate that whole package previously back in the day when I was really, really, really struggling with my food addiction and those sort of things. So 3.5 cookies are not that big of a deal. But it was the point that I'm trying to make is that it makes us crave more. And a lot of times we just don't think clearly about what we're eating because once our tongue tastes it and the brain fires up, we're like, oh my God, more has to be better, right? So I just want you guys thinking about this because knowledge is power, man. Like, pay attention to how they're hooking you in. And I would love to say that I have been doing this 20 years and I don't crave sugar, but I still like sugar. That's just my bent. I'm bent toward really sweet, yummy, freaking things, okay? But because I understand myself and I understand what this food does to me, I am so much better prepared. But I do sometimes still catch myself falling into those old thought patterns and I have to regroup and regather, okay? So I just want you guys to think about that. We know that food is not good for us. We know it, but dang it, it tastes good. And that's the splurge of your life, right? Like I call it the 90-10 rule. 90% of our food is good, clean, whole, real food and 10% is splurge. 10% is splurge, guys, and that's absolutely okay. But when most of us are eating way more than 10% splurge. I want you to really think today, if you could give a percentage to how much of your food is good, clean, whole food over here, to splurge, junk, chemicals, calories, bad food, not bad food, but just unhealthy food, right? That balance is probably off. All right. So knowledge is power. Be aware of the percentage of what you're putting into your diet, and I am for moderation, but that's my moderation, 90-10. Maybe 80-20 on a holiday weekend because we're doing a little more extra stuff, but be aware of it. Okay. So let me see. I want to make sure I hit everything that I wanted to talk about. The main thing is all of us know that there are side effects besides the cravings to eating this stuff. We know that all that extra sugar is leading to, I'm trying to read at the same time and talk. Mondays are hard. Is that the top causes of death, things like heart disease, diabetes, and even some types of cancer are absolutely associated with cancer risk. Think about this, and this is actually, and I'll end on this today, but even I was reading over the weekend that there's a group that has really been putting stuff out there about peeps, right? They only come out at Easter, not Halloween, Easter, and the color in them is actually cancer causing. And this is true. This is true. But most of us don't even think twice about it because it's Easter and it's a peep. And it wouldn't be Easter without a peep. Which, by the way, I could care less about peeps, but I'm just telling you, I'm all about the Cadbury eggs, which probably aren't any better. And by the way, I didn't even have one this year, so hallelujah to that. Anyways, you know what, guys? Here's the thing. I want to say this to you and end on this today. There is nothing wrong with you because you have a craving. You are not weak because you have cravings, okay? This is a thing for us that we beat ourselves up with, that I'm a failure and I'm not good enough and there's something wrong with me and I should be able to get it together. But you know what? A lot of times it comes back to the food choices that we're eating and how it's absolutely affecting our body, okay? Our brains, our palates, our insulin levels, our blood sugars, all those kinds of things. We're set up to fail. And that's really hard to say, but it's the truth when it comes to our food supply, especially in the U.S. A lot of the foods that are on our shelves in the U.S. are not allowed in other places. So knowledge is power. But I want to remind you, you're not a failure because you have cravings. But I want you to take that knowledge, use the power that you have, and work toward that 90-10 rule, 90% good, whole, clean food, 10% splurge per week, and move forward, okay? It doesn't mean you can't ever have stuff again. It just means understand what those triggers are for you and why those triggers are happening to you and what you can do differently to set yourself up for success, all right? So I hope that motivates you guys today. I want you guys to have an amazing week. The weather here, especially in Nebraska, is going to be amazing. 75 today, maybe 80 tomorrow. This girl is happy as a meadowlark. I ain't gonna lie. I am happy, happy, happy. Loving it. So I wish you guys well. We'll plan on seeing you again next Monday. You know what? And also I just want to put out there, I know I always do at the end of my videos, if this is something you're struggling with, come work with me. Set up the 1-hour free consultation. Come in, talk with me. See how I can help you get to that at least 80% good, clean food for 90% and work through the cravings and the changes and find the foods that are going to fuel your body to make you feel good and be able to be in control. All right? Give the office a call, 308-850-2419, or you can message me. All right, guys, have a beautiful, blessed week. We'll see you all next week. Bye.